Cool, man. So this is the NWC Show, episode 43, and if you could introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Alastor Adams, or Pure Evil Alastor Adams.
Man, everybody I've had recently has always had such a short, introduction, and
I don't want to just spout off a whole paragraph about myself. I'm not.
for a while, 10 episodes or 15 episodes, it was like people just had a pure couple of minutes of chatting, and then it was just everybody recently has just been so simple, and I feel awkward. I'm like, is that it? Are we done? I don't know. But and the way we always start this is with the exact same question, man, is what got you into wrestling? What was that moment you were like, these people in the ring jumping around with barely anything on is what I want to do? What was that moment that got you hooked?
So I actually got into wrestling a lot later than most people. Like, most people kind of grow up with it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get into it until I was about 10 or 11. So around 2006, we're talking. The very first match I ever saw, I found it by just scrolling on YouTube on the trending page, and I just ran across it. Rey Mysterio versus Edge. So right from the start, Rey Mysterio was the guy that caught my attention immediately. So from there, I ended up watching the 2006 Royal Rumble, which was the one Rey won, and yeah, I just got hooked from there. So I have Rey Mysterio to thank for the whole thing.
So if you get really big, it's Rey Mysterio to thank, and if it doesn't work out, it's Rey Mysterio to blame. That's the way to look at it. For me, I was a lot younger when I got into it, so I remember I was 5 or something. So I was in the 1996 or 1997 time. So it was just that before the Attitude Era started, but just as it was coming.
Yeah.
And I remember watching a couple of things, but then when I went to school, the Attitude Era was kind of in full swing. And I was around about that 8-9-year-old time, and it was insane. You're flipping teachers off, giving them the DX sign, standing on your friends and stuff like that, which was a fun experience.
This first match that I saw as well, it's lucky that it even managed to pull me in, because it's the weirdest, obscure match. It was just on an episode of SmackDown, and it was a beat the clock challenge with Rey versus Edge, and it had an Undertaker run in. So I was just like, what is going on here?
I think
everything was just going crazy.
When you try and explain wrestling to somebody, or you show wrestling to somebody that's never seen it before, they're just like, what is going on? Why is all these people what are they doing? But sometimes we try and show them the modern product, it can be a wee bit harder to explain compared to the older time.
That's whenever I'm showing somebody wrestling, the go-to is always a Rumble match. I feel like that's the best entry level to go into, because you're just here's all these guys, and they all look weird. Just try and get into it.
And it's always normally a good match as well. It's always something you can enjoy genuinely. Yeah. I think there's been 2 kind of bad Rumbles out of the bunch of them. But I always loved the Royal Rumble, and it's one I would be the same. I'd be watch that, or for me, it's the Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Blue Steel Cage, SummerSlam '94. That's my favourite match of all time. I watch it at least twice a month because I can learn so much from it. But that's a bit of an exaggeration. I've not seen it in a year.
What to say?
It's in my head twice a month. It's always there, especially when I do these, because I always mention it. So it's
just remembering a random spot just in the middle of your day.
Aye, just sitting there. I've got nothing else to do. Just thinking about this match. That's what happens as well. Wrestling's I've been doing it for so long. It's in my brain.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
What got you that moment as well when you were I want to go actually start to pursue this? What was your thought process there?
So the actual origin isn't actually that interesting. Basically, I was young, and my parents wanted me to do something that wasn't just sitting about. So at the time, I was doing judo, and I didn't really care about it. I was just going because it was something to do after school, until I started looking into wrestling, because it was something I was enjoying. And then I happened to find a school and went from there, and kind of sacked off everything else I was doing to just do that.
Well, I was pretty similar. I had to lie to my mum where I was going when I was going to wrestling school, because she was like, I don't want you to do wrestling at all. So when I first was getting a couple of matches here and there, I would be like, I'm working in a shop, just I need to go do this shift, come back, I'm in pain. What was it? Blocks fell on me and stuff like that. But my first kind of experience with training was in Linwood, if you know where that is, in Glasgow. It's really middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Industrial state, couple of flats, plus that's it. And that was there, and I was like a 12-year-old on a Sunday going there myself. So it was on a bus. It was like 45 minutes from the city centre, just there myself for the whole day. Because it was like 8 in the morning till like 5 at night, it was fun. But looking back, you're like for my kids, I'm not going to let my 12 when he goes 12 go away somewhere. He say, "I'll go with him." But yeah,
I think it's one of those things like my parents probably just saw it as, oh, he's just doing something after school, and now here we are 10 years later, like still wrestling, still going on.
they're still like, why is he still doing this? I just like it. Man, so what still, but the questions we normally ask is, what do you like about today's product? We try and always keep it positive because then the negative bit comes up next. But what do you like about today's product?
I mean, it's a good question for me because I don't really have much negative things to say about wrestling. Probably the strongest point is with wrestling today, there is something for everybody. If you don't like something about a certain product, there's a million other products you can look into as well. And that's what I like as well because I like all kinds of wrestling. So for me, there's just an endless amount of wrestling to choose from to watch, which it can be a bad thing as well because sometimes I don't have time to catch up on all this wrestling that I want to see.
No, 100%, man. That's one of the reasons why I started this channel, was so that I could kind of have like some sort of structure to the wrestling I was watching, because it was just like you would get like ROH, WWE, Impact, TNA, whatever they're called, like all the like classic stuff, NWA, like a way back. Like I watch everything. I still do to this day, but when I've got like some structure, cool. So I'm reviewing like a pay-per-view, then Raw. Plus, it's cool to look at it from like a reviewing perspective. It gives it like it gives it a wee bit more like impact to kind of watching it instead of from sometimes when you're watching it, you're like, oh, it's a little bit boring, but it makes a cool YouTube video if I'm shouting about it. But what's something that you dislike about today's like wrestling world? Doesn't usually be the product, it could be how toxic Twitter can be. That's what my one is. It's just how people just tear it apart. Like I do it as well, but it's like I always say it's something that I don't like, so I'll tear it apart, but like it's terrible sometimes.
I mean, the thing with like Twitter and stuff is I hate it too because a lot of people like to pull back the curtain here. A lot of people try to be a heel on Twitter when you're not being a heel. You're just annoying people for the sake of annoying people. Well, which is why with my Twitter, I'm not really in character for most of my tweets. I'm just kind of engaging with people and showing interests and stuff because that's what people actually react to instead of just this random goth kid tweeting about cryptic stuff, because that's not really going to do me any favors. Other than that, though, like there's not much to dislike. The only thing that irks me, like on TV and stuff, would be when companies are like directly referencing each other and trying to one up each other. That's the only thing that I'm like, just why? Other than that, though, nothing bad to say about the actual on-screen product.
And it's the first I've had somebody on that's been like happy with the on-screen product at the minute, because it is pretty. Sometimes for like Raw and stuff like that can be a wee bit weird sometimes when you're watching it. But
I mean, with the obviously I would prefer crowds, but that's not obviously their choice right now. But the Thunderdome looks fine to me.
I think the Thunderdome's cool. Upgrade. I think it's better than having nobody there completely.
Yeah.
Plus, it's cool when. So I was in one of the Thunderdome things, and like they tell you about to cheer and stuff like that. You feel like you're part of it. Talk to you on the breaks. It's pretty cool. It's not like they're trying something. Do you know what I mean? That's all you can really ask, especially during COVID. Nobody knows what's happening. It changes every couple of days, so you're just kind of at least they're trying.
With it before as well, like when they didn't have the Thunderdome and it was just kind of the empty arena, it took you out of the atmosphere a little bit because all you can hear is emptiness and some yelling and a thud. Whereas with the Thunderdome, even though you're aware that it's not a real crowd, it kind of makes the atmosphere more like it was a crowd, which I guess what they're intending for. So you can actually focus on the match as a whole instead of kind of narrowing in on what exactly is happening in the ring at all times.
Yeah, man, I think it's fun. I like the Thunderdome. I know a lot of people don't, but for me, I think it's cool. Like you say, it makes it feel like there's a crowd there, especially when, obviously, it's not going to replicate. Like at WrestleMania when the crowd was back, it was so much better. Yeah. But then we went back to the TVs. It was like, it's cool, but I prefer the crowd.
Yeah.
It's something, obviously. It's better to have that than just, like you says, when there was nobody there. And it was so awkward to watch when nobody was there. It was like, you just imagine somebody sitting like, just coughing in the corner and stuff. It's just pretty awkward, but I think the TVs are cool. I thought they were going to charge for it when it first started, because I was like...
Oh, they definitely could have got away with it.
It's WWE. Sure. I was like, what, are they charging for this? They're literally just charge for everything. Why is no charging for this? But I think it's kind of like, we can't charge for people during COVID, and then now they're like, maybe we could charge a wee bit, and people got used to it for free. But that's my rant about how I like the Thunderdome. I know a lot of people don't, but like you were saying, I think Twitter is somewhere for not just wrestling, everywhere. Just Twitter is just like a toxic hole at some points, which is
for sure.
And like you say, when people are being a heel, like I get what you mean, they're being a heel, but they're not being a heel. Like they're just being a cunt. They're literally not doing anything.
Like it's different when you go in front of a crowd and you're saying stuff to rile people up, because it's pantomime. Like you're playing people up for a reason. If you're doing it on Twitter, people don't get it and they're just going to get angry at you, and then it becomes a whole thing. Like it's just not worth it.
It's like there's nobody you're trying to put over, or there's nobody you're trying to get hot. There's nothing that you're just sitting there typing at a keyboard. It does no work. You're no heel. You're just a weirdo sitting in your pajamas that's messaging people, which it annoys me, especially when they play a heel character and then they start being nice, and you're like, why can't you just stop being... I don't know. Why? Twitter, I only use it to reach out to you guys to get you on the podcast, and then to just post when stuff's coming on, because it's really cool to reach out to new guys that I've not seen before.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
To post and promote stuff, but I try and avoid looking through it. But then there's nowhere else to look through stuff to laugh at, which is a pain. You can't scroll through Instagram and have a good laugh unless it's not the same. Like it's not got the arguments and the comments and stuff.
Once in a blue moon, you will see something on Twitter that just makes your day, but other than that, it's just blind scrolling, waiting for something bad to happen.
It really is. You're just waiting for somebody to start something, and then you see like 150 comments. You're like, this is what I'm going to sit and read through on my lunch break, and then that'll be cool. So, what's your thought on, like, because obviously everybody we've ever had on this podcast has got the dislike mostly the modern product. So for me, I have obviously my preferences. Everybody can have their preferences in wrestling. We're having a conversation. So I'm not attacking anything that you're saying. You can say something that I like that you can hate. I don't really care. That's just the way the world is, and it makes a cool conversation. So don't think I'm going to get offended by anything. And if anybody's listening, or Scottish people, we don't get offended that much. But what's your thoughts on like how... I'm trying to word this question because it seems quite... I've got it in my head, but it's just not coming to my mouth. Like everybody we've had on, like even myself, like there's things that I really dislike about today's product. For instance, I don't know if have you seen Backlash from last night?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Zombies.
Yeah.
Me, but like there's like the tomato throwing and stuff like that, and they say it's for kids. My kids literally don't watch it. They don't like it, and if you look at trends, a lot of kids aren't watching wrestling anymore because it's too long for them and stuff like that. I would say that's an argument against what they're trying to do, because plus I've got a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old. They're not going to sit and watch zombies, which is like, why are you doing that? And in the tomato phone, they thought it was cheesy and just walked away. And I'm trying to like watch wrestling. Come on, watch wrestling. But what's your thought process of like, why are you positive about it? Does this make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah. Here's the thing. Obviously, like I said earlier, I like all kinds of wrestling, and I think there's a place for a lot of things in wrestling, like comedy, flippy stuff, real amateur wrestling. I think everything deserves a spot. It's just putting those things in the right places. The zombie thing last night, not a big fan, but that's only because I'm not a big fan of it on WWE. I mean, I was there for Discovery Wrestling when they had their zombie lumberjack match. Something like that belongs there because it's much smaller. It's not on TV. The crowd knows what they're getting into with something like that instead of just tuning into a show and then zombies like out of nowhere. Uh, and the thing with the zombie lumberjack was I almost like had come to terms with it at the end. Like I was like, okay, they've done this, it's fine, it's probably just a one off. Until they had Damian Priest shoot an arrow to reveal the movie title, that's what pushed it over the edge for me. Like, no, just
Well, I
but
say the same thing that you just said there about the time and place. Like the smaller promotions, independent promotions, like you can get away with a lot more on an independent scene than what you can on a national, global TV show.
yeah,
But I think the Discovery stuff, the zombie thing, was pretty funny because it's got its time and place. Do you know what I mean? Like it's got
yeah,
a reason for it. That was just cheap promotion, which just really itched at me. Like it was just, especially you says when he done like the arrow and then it was just like the
yeah,
name and the camera angle and you're like, you just,
yeah. I
and
mean,
then
it just plays into like there is a time and a place for everything in wrestling. It just depends where and when. So I don't hate the zombie idea. I just didn't think it was right last night.
it's just that that's what I was saying as well. It's like on the smaller promotions, it would be a cool idea
Mm,
because you might have kids there, you might have teenagers or whatever that will find that cool or be like, this is so awkward to watch. And it's like it gets
mm,
a reaction from the crowd when they're there. But
yeah.
when the TVs were turned to like the wee grassy hill kind of thing, it was cheap promotion. And then I've just got pure fears that on Raw tonight we're going to get like Miz and Morrison coming out as zombies, and they're going to be like tag team zombie champions. And if you want to see if that happens, if you want to see something funny, you can come and watch me just scream at YouTube tomorrow. But I'm like I'm the same as you. Wrestling has obviously there's so much wrestling. There's so many forms of wrestling. Everybody has their own preferences, and it's got a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
Just main like pay per view maybe isn't a time and place for a
Yeah.
zombie promotion. They could have done it better as well. Like they could have. The zombies didn't look that good either, which was so
Well,
annoying.
yeah.
I'm excited to see the movie on Friday. I want to see kind of if it's a
Mhm.
pure mess up or if it's fun. But
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know the movie existed until this match, so I guess they got what they wanted out of the promotion until I looked into it and saw it's been like in development for years.
I,
So they've got
I'm
my
a
interest now.
I'm a huge zombie fan. Like I love like zombie video games,
Mhm.
movies, and stuff like that. Like most of them are terrible, but I still go in waiting like for something cool to happen. It never
Yeah.
does, but I just go in hoping. So I'm like, Friday, this is going to be hit. If it was on WWE, I'm hoping it's going to be good, and I hope we don't go into it and it'll just be like the cheesy Elvis zombie, and then terribleness for the whole movie. But let's hope it's good. But back to wrestling, man. Like you says, I think it's time and place. A lot of people don't look at it that way as well. Like there's so many forms of wrestling, like deathmatch,
Mhm.
hardcore, your legitimate kind of style, the comedy style. I feel comedy works a little bit more in independent scenes because
Yeah.
they have like a loyal kind of fan base. And like I was saying about the zombie stuff, because it was like global audience, it kind of fell in like deaf
Mhm.
ears, and it was just like you have just been paid a ton of money just to have this, and like Vince is the best businessman, pretty much.
Oh,
Of
absolutely. Yeah.
I, like if I was him, I'd be doing the exact same thing. If somebody was like, "Oh, we'll give you like a couple of million to put this match with zombies," I'd book the whole show with zombies. If you're giving me a couple of million, it's all right. I'll take that. But aye, it is like you say, it's time and place. It's cool to get like a refreshing feel because everybody at the
Mhm.
minute that I've been speaking to is just like, this is shit. Like this, like Raw, especially when it's the 3 hours and it's pretty. The in ring work's good, but the story just doesn't really make
Mhm.
sense, and it just doesn't feel that good for me personally as well. But everybody I've spoke to recently is really angry about it, and I'm like, right, calm down, but it doesn't make sense. I agree with you on that one.
Maybe I'm just not as passionate about wrestling as other people that I just don't have this hatred. Like,
Man, I thought I was quite passionate about wrestling. I thought I was like quite a big wrestling fan, and then since I started this, I spoke to some people, and I'm like, all right, I don't know anything. Like, people are just like very like, it's like a Celtic and Rangers fan, like talking about football with each other. I'm like, calm down, like I'm not that much into like this. There's other things.
See, the thing is, I was about to say, like, the only bad wrestling I could think of is like actual real shit wrestling that you find on like some random backyard. But even then, I can find enjoyment in that because it's funny, like seeing these guys who don't know what they're doing.
I don't know if you remember, there was a documentary. It was called Backyard Wrestling, and it followed a guy. It was on like ITV4 years ago. I taped it on like a DVD recorder, but it's showing my age again. I was talking about VHSs the other day as well, but I taped it on a DVD recorder, and it was like I've still got it to this day, and I put it on sometimes because it doesn't work on any modern formats like Xbox Series X, PS5, stuff like that. It doesn't work, so you need to I need to get out like an actual DVD player, put it on, and just to see how cringy it is, because they follow like this guy who's like doing backyard shows. He's getting no pay, and he's like, I'm going to be in like WWE, and he's like had no training or nothing, and I'm like, how is this guy getting away with this? And then he gets booked on a real show. He gets like $50 and 8 inches he sell, and then that's at the end of the documentary. But it was fun. So it's good to go watch it and be like, and that's why you should always train.
Yeah.
Because you're going to either hurt yourself badly or you're going to hurt somebody. So how long have you been in the business? How long have you been training and working for?
Far too long already. God, I started training when I was 12-ish, and I'm 23 now, so 11 years. In terms of working on shows, I want to say I was about 16 or 17, so God, I can't do maths. About 7 or 8 years I've been wrestling on shows, and I've done everything from referee work, running, music, any job you can think of. I've done it at least once.
Man, it's such a, people always forget how much goes into a wrestling show as well. Like, you've got like your music, your sound, your runners, you've got like your people telling people when to go out, there's so much that goes into it. Refs as well. People always forget how much stuff goes into it. And I remember my kind of first ever being in the ring experience, me when I was in there when I was wrestling. It was like my first or second match ever. And I think it actually could have been my first. And it was like this granny, it was like a pre-show of the pre-show, because I was like 13, 14. So it was like, now one of those like, oh, we'll let this guy go out and wrestle.
Yeah.
But it's no like, we're no legitimately letting this guy go out and wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like this one woman sitting, just like eating. She was just there extremely early. This was like 4 o'clock. Doors were 7. So this was like mega early. And she was just sitting eating like popcorn. And I put on this poor cool match I thought was cool. And then like, after it, the guy was like, that was a really cool match. And he was like, what was that woman about? She was just sitting, just staring at us. No emotion or nothing. Like, just like eyeballing you, everything you were doing, just eating. And then it was like, I think it was third or fourth, the same woman came and she was pure cheering. And I was like, this is shit. Last time you just sat and just made me feel awkward just out here with nobody there. But what a lot of people don't realise is when you hit the mat and there's nobody there, there's just like one person, or there's like 10 people, it hurts a lot more than when it does if there's 100 or more people. You can get that emotion, but if there's like 10, you're like, oh, this is pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with having matches at training for practice. It sucks. It sucks. So, like, everyone else there tries to be our crowd to kind of help with it, but it's something about being in the training environment that just makes it hurt more.
Yeah, and you just know everybody's just judging what you're doing. Like, they're just watching exactly what you're doing and just going, I can do that. And you're like, I'm trying my best, but it does hurt more. Like, the first time I ever took a choke slam in training, and it was to go to the outside, so we're practicing this wee spot, ruining kayfabe for people. We did practice this because it was like, I wasn't that well into it. And it was like going to be choke slam to the outside. And somebody forgot to put the mat down. So like the mat was there before, but then I think somebody moved it. It was like a new guy moved it. And I just hit the smaller mats. So now like you have the crash one. I had the smaller one, and I just remember lying there like, I need to go to the hospital. This is going to not going to end well. But I got back up and I was fine. But it felt like shit. But people forget as well that the amount of time you put in training to do one match or to be a wrestler is pretty hard. And like you say, those cold mornings in Glasgow and some can be hard getting up to wrestle.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people like worry as well about big moves hurting people. I've only ever had one halfway serious injury, and it was from getting up from a drop down. That's it. I just stood up and tried to turn too quickly and stretched ligaments in my knee.
But everybody's heard this story in this podcast yet, so everybody knows this one, and I always bring it up. Mm-hmm. But I need to tell you. So my worst injury, and the reason I stopped wrestling was because I broke my neck, and I was on the side of the ring. I like telling this to guys that have been in the ring because they realise how clumsy and stupid I'm for this. So I wasn't wrestling because I had a knee injury at the time. Mm-hmm. I was in Holland with my friend who was wrestling that night. So I was the ring was set up and I was just like practicing for a couple of weeks before I was coming back. And I was at the side of the ring, like at the other side of the ropes, nothing behind you. And I was like, walking along, so I was going to practice a new move. And then I just was like, no. And I tripped. I don't know how I tripped. I must have tripped over my own feet. I fell and landed on top of my head. Broke my neck, and I didn't go to the doctors for like 7 weeks till I came home. And then they were like, how have you been walking around? Like, are you not in pain? And I'm like, I'm in severe pain, that's why I came here. And they were like, what? But they were like, you need to like go to like physical therapy, we need to like fix you a wee bit, like you've hurt yourself really bad. And then I got fixed, got better, but I was like, I can't go back to wrestling because the guy was like, your neck will take it was like 3-4 years, and then obviously life happened, things change and stuff like that. But I was so gutted, and during that time, that's when I fell out of love with wrestling. So that's when I had my little hissy fit, and I don't want to talk to it if it doesn't want me. But everybody always asks when I say I broke my neck, everybody thinks you probably still were like, oh, it'd be a cool move or something like that. Or like maybe it was like a standing up or in the rope or something. Nah, nobody was there, just me, clumsy, falling. But like, I don't even know. I used to say that it was a pile driver, like something pure cool. Like, and people were like, really? But
you can say it was a pile driver just from the Invisible Man.
I hope it was, or somebody's just a ghost has tripped me up or something, and I've just felt I've decided I'm getting older. I turned 30 this year. I'm like, you know what? I'll just tell people the actual story because it's a wee bit more fun than it was a serious move. No, I was just a clumsy fucking fell off the side of the ring. And a lot of people forget how big they're not mega tall, but how tall from the ground to the mat is. So when you do fall, it's a bit of a. I'm just trying to make myself feel better, just to be honest with you. could have been like this like. Just right foot off the ground and I fell and just pure hurt myself. Just
thinking about that fall just reminded me of this Rumble match I was in. A few of us had went down and it was like last minute just to fill up a Rumble, and we got there and I was told I was number 2. I was like, oh, okay. And I had to work face, which I hadn't done in years. So I went out there and just done a little kind of shine thing to start with. And the thing was, number 1, who was a heel, was just going to throw a few guys out at the start, me being one of them. So the spot was, he was on the ropes and I'd charge at him and he'd throw me over. It didn't quite go that way. I ran and I jumped really high when he boosted me over and kind of done a 450 splash over the ropes and kind of hit onto the barricade and kind of saw my life flash before my eyes because I can't do a 450 splash myself on the best of days, let alone being thrown out of the ring to the floor doing that.
Man, I was never a guy that was able to do those flips and stuff like that. I'm one of those people that's just like, you put me in the top rope or something, I'll jump. But that's about the most that you're getting. Like, the flippy stuff doesn't work. But I could imagine if somebody threw me over the rope, I'd be talking to. I don't believe in God or anything, but I'd be talking to somebody to try and save me from whatever was coming. Lucky it was a barricade and no whoever was there. Just like
Yeah.
the audience taking it. I'm so sorry about that, guys. You paid your ticket to get hit.
I mean, it would have been a softer landing for me, but
yeah,
it's fine.
And so, how have you dealt with COVID with wrestling? Like, have you found it weird that you're obviously not able to get out there and work, or you found it a little bit better, maybe work on character work or whatever? How have you found this kind of weird time?
At the start, I found it really difficult because it was something that I was doing, whether that was training or shows or whatever, something that I was doing most days of the week, until suddenly nothing, like all of it's gone. After a while, I kind of settled down with it and just started kind of working on myself. Like around the start as well, I changed my ring name, started coming up with a few different ideas. Even right now, I've got some big changes planned for when stuff comes back as well, like stuff with the look, new moves I want to try, and then I can like talk to the other guys about it as well and kind of brainstorm stuff. It's still hard not being able to actually go and wrestle, but it's looking like it could be within the next few months that we might be able to get back out there. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, man, I'm hoping like things get back to normal, so then I can come along and see all you guys wrestle. If any's are heels, I always say if anybody wants to be a heel and they want some just cheap heat, just pick on me for the audience, because I'll take it. If you need me to cry, I can try and cry and cue and stuff like that. If you need to slap me, I'll take a hit. But I always like, I can't wait to get back and go out and, like, especially podcasting as well. I would rather do this like in the same room, because then we can talk as like people instead of from like via a screen, which will be so cool to kind of get back to some sort of like world. But without COVID, I probably wouldn't have had time to get the YouTube sorted. So it's kind of like COVID gave me the time to do my channel, and then it's a weird thing because I would have probably just been like, oh, I'm going to do a wrestling YouTube and never do it. You know what I mean? But it's a weird situation. But I could only imagine for you guys, like, obviously I don't do that anymore, which the worst thing is speaking to you guys is it makes me, I've always had the itch to go back to do some sort of wrestling, like manager or something.
I feel like everybody who gets started in the business feels that way when they stop. They want everybody. Once you're in wrestling, you can never escape. Like I say that to everybody. Like
100%, man. That's what I always say as well. Like, it's once you've got that experience of being in the ring, you've even took a couple of bumps, or you've been to training, you've met a couple of guys. You never want to leave it, because the best part about traveling and stuff like that is the guys that you're with, the stories that you can tell. Because there's a ton of weird stories that I've got from the times when I was traveling in like France and stuff like that. But I'm dying to get back and maybe do like a manager stuff or something like that. Try and make managers cool again. Do you know what I mean? Instead of people hating on them, I'll make them cool. But I'm probably like, once COVID's away, it's something I'm going to look at, get back into maybe, hopefully, my neck. Because then I was like, if I'm a manager, I can take maybe like a bump or two, and then I don't need to hurt my neck as much. If I was back in the ring, I don't know, you need to put crash mats out in case I go off the side of the ring, or do what you done, a 450 splash. You'd just be like, oh, there's that baldy guy flying away. But I was never a person when it came to now the flips and stuff like that. That's no me. If you ever see me in real life, I'm not tall, but like I'm terrible at flipping. Like that's. But surprisingly, like there was one time, you'll understand when someone hits you with a clothesline, and if they come in a wee bit too much, or you don't fall in time, and they get you, and you just like roll. And I just remember, you know, as well, when like somebody gets you, or you flip, you black out for like a split second. So like I blacked out, and I ended up outside the ring on the floor, standing up, and I was probably like, but I mean, this guy was like 6'5", so he was like much taller than me, and I was just probably like, how did I get out here?
It's such a weird thing, because backflips are my mental block. I can't do them. There's no way. I just can't do them at all, no matter how much people help me with them. Every other thing I can do relatively okay. Unless someone gives me a really hard clothesline, then for some reason I can do a perfect flush backflip.
Well, that was the exact same. It's like as if it's just that little bit where they hit you, gravity just takes you, and it's like can we just do that all the time when I try to look cool? But I just remember just standing and being like, how did I get out here? Like, your brain's trying to, like, why are we here? We were up there 2 minutes ago. But that was a weird situation. But where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you see yourself getting called up to some of the bigger promotions or going to Japan? I've been on a binge here, the matches you've had on Twitter and stuff like that, the ones you've been putting up. I've been on a binge of watching them, and I'm really enjoying your style, man. It's kind of similar to what I used to do. Mine was like, I used to always say mine was a crossover between Bret Hart and Raven. And people always go, how the hell's that? And I'm like, well, you had to see it, right? But it was like that kind of similar to like what you do, like that kind of, you know what I'm trying to say. But
yeah.
where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you see yourself maybe in like Japan or America? Or where would you like to be? Obviously, you can't predict it, but where would you like to be?
I mean, it's so hard to say now because there's just so much options and so much potential things that could happen in the future. What I would like in that period of time is just to be wrestling full time, no matter what that circumstance is, whether that be for a promotion on TV, just traveling, working everywhere I can. I just want to be able to make a living off of it. That's the end goal for right now. If stuff happens after that, that's just a bonus. Yeah, we'll need to see how wrestling evolves over the next few years as well to see how that goes.
So hopefully it evolves good and Disney take another dip. Well, Disney dip further than where it's already dipped.
As long as there's not a COVID-2, we'll be fine.
By that time, there'll be like COVID strains from like Mars and stuff like that. So I don't know. But I think it's weird. A problem that I feel when I was getting into wrestling, guys in the UK, Scotland and stuff like that weren't able to make a living because there wasn't really a scene. We had the SWA in Scotland, and that was like hit. Like the place I went and trained when SW was working on a Saturday or a Sunday. If the ring wasn't there, you just done it where the ring was and kid on that the ring was there. But it was like that little, and obviously the scenes came back a little bit more. There's been ups and downs, whatever's been happening in the community, but
it was still the same when I started, like 10 or so years ago. Like the only kind of sense of someone making it anywhere was Drew. Like that was the only person who ever made it, besides guys from England, which even then were few and far between as well. But now, like, there's just so much opportunities all over the place. Opportunities that will get you places that aren't even with a huge company. You can get on TV with other places. You might even end up on TV for other things where you're a wrestler on a game show. That's happened a lot over the last few years as well.
Yeah, man, I think it's so cool to see where wrestling is, especially in like UK, Europe, that kind of area as well. There is a lot of need for it as well. But the problem is obviously WWE's Disney, and they when they see somebody that's kind of starting to make a living, they'll just go, okay, we'll just sign you, and then it just creates this big fat. Like when they set up NXT UK, the UK scene was they just went and bought all the top guys, and everybody was like, where'd everybody go? Nobody's able to work anymore. But it's came back a wee bit. We've obviously built stars and stuff like that. But I think that's the problem with bigger companies, and then obviously you get independence is the bigger companies have money. And you're not going to turn WWE came to your door. Hell, if they came to my door and offered me a contract, especially how much they just pay like the water boy, you know what I mean? You'd be like, I'll take that, Cam. That'll cover my mortgage and stuff for a couple of years. So I'll take that. But I think it's so weird at this time. It's cool to see how far it's came. Like you says, even when you started 10 years ago. So obviously, but when I started when I was 12, would have been 2000 maths. 2003, 3. I think 3. We'll say 3. I don't know. I'm sure it's 3 or 4, something like that. But that was like, obviously there wasn't really that many English guys that were up doing anything. Drew and stuff were still wrestling, training here. And it was a few years before they went. So it was kind of just like, there's nobody, like, where do you go? SWA. And that was it.
It's a massive jump as well, because I would even say that besides the US, the UK has the biggest wrestling scene now. Like, maybe Japan has a case for that as well, but it's very close. Like, and it's such a drastic change from what we used to be. That a lot of people, like me as well, are still adjusting to it because it doesn't feel real.
100%. I think Japan's obviously still living off their heydays back in the years ago. They've started to die down a little bit. It's not as popular, but obviously they still sell it because everybody still wants to go see it. But here it's insane. Like, there's a wrestling show everywhere, and even if it's only getting 10 people, there's 7 other wrestling shows that are on that exact same night that might be getting 100 people. So it's not a lot of people, but it's just great wrestlers, and that's why I'm trying to reach out. As much as I'm getting people like Sabu and other guys coming in the future on, I want to reach out to the Scottish wrestlers and the people in the UK, because it's an insane amount of talent that's here just now, especially from when I started. There obviously was talent in there. That sounds bad, but like there was
sheer
people
amount,
there, but there was like to find a wrestling school. I was trying to find, I had to go in, and it was like this terrible website, like a website from like the 90s, like with a red flashing box, and it was like, this is the address, and it was like, it looked so weird, and it was like that fake paper background, like just the fake, and I was like, this doesn't look safe at all. Like, it looks like one of those websites that's been set up to kidnap people. But it's a weird experience. Now you've got, where I live, ICW is just down the road. You've got Discovery in Edinburgh. You've got Respect Pro Wrestling, Target. Just I can't try to name them all is insane. That's like the big guys, but then you've got like just tons of small guys that set up. It's insane. It's cool to see people able to like show talent in Scotland as well, because there was so much of it, and it wasn't really anybody to show it. There was nowhere to go. It was just two shows, ICW, SWA, and it was like maybe like Discovery was kind of coming around at that point, and it was just like, hopefully they can book you, but they've only got like 6 matches, and that's it. They don't do another show for 6 months. That's all you've got. If you didn't get on it, that was you. But aye. It's cool to see how far it's came. Now we sound like 2 old guys talking about the olden days. Like, oh, it was terrible in the old days. I had a few guys that have been on the WWE network that have worked for ICW, and it's, they're a tag team. It's 2 young guys, and they're insanely talented, and like they can't like fathom that there was nothing, and I was like, there was nothing. Like, if you had to train for years and get friends with people to try and just like clean a show. I mean, there was like nothing. But
like, there was nothing, and also no spots as well. So it was just a lose-lose situation for everybody.
You were just there, just like trying to make friends, cleaning a show. Like, I remember I used to go sweep, and then that was the one time the guy was like, "Have you got your stuff with you?" And he was like, "We'll just go to the noodles." Like, one person. He said there was a couple of people in the audience. Didn't tell me there was just one person. But that was like a break in. Do you know what I mean? That was like some way to get in back then. And then like now you've just got all these shows that are just looking for wrestlers, which is really good. So man, coming up to the end of the podcast, there's 3 questions. I sent you 2, but I don't send one. I always keep this one from everybody. It's a secret. The first one is, who's your favourite wrestler of all time? I think you've already answered it, but you could change it if you want.
It's Rob Van Dam, without a question. He's always been my favorite. I know I gave Ray a lot of credit for getting me into wrestling, but then I saw the match with RVD winning the title from Cena and his moveset, and I got a DVD of him like pretty much as soon as I got into wrestling as well, so he just hooked me right away.
Was it by any chance the green and blue DVD? The one that was like...
It
was. That was the one I had, man. That's what got me into Rob Van Dam.
Just had all of his matches on it.
And it was literally every single one was like just a great match, and that's
Yeah.
what really got me a big fan of Rob Van Dam. Then that was around about the time when I think it was just before ECW One Night Stand, and then he went on to win it off John Cena, which was then I was already a big fan from him at that point, and then I was even more. I was like, this is great. But being a kid again, enjoying wrestling. The cool thing is, if you want to go watch me, literally shit myself, but shit myself as in talking to somebody when I had Sabu on, he dropped, this is before the Hall of Fame induction, and nobody knew about this, and he was like, "Oh, I think Rob Van Dam's going to go in the Hall of Fame," and I was like, "What do I say to this? Like, what do I do? Like,
contact all the dirt sheets. Go, 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 go."
You know what WWE's like, but if you put something like that up and you go, "Oh, this person said that," they'll be like, "You can't really say that," and take it down.
Yeah.
Like, so I was
waiting for a cease and desist for Eudora.
I was shitting myself that they were going to take it, but nobody ever said anything. They got a ton of views, so I was happy with it. But if you ever want to see me shit myself, plus speaking to Sabu was one of my. That sounds bad. Another guest. I've got you on, and I'm bigging up another guest, but you understand.
No, I mean, it's Sabu, like.
But that was like my weirdest conversation I've ever had with somebody. I'm normally nice and chill, like the way I'm here, but speaking to Sabu, I was just like, I don't know what to say. And then he was like, before it, he was like, I'm nervous as well, and I was like, what the fuck? You're nervous? But there's cool podcasts coming up in the future that you might enjoy. What you were talking about might be fun in the future. Just letting you know. So, what's your favourite event of all time, man? Everybody says WrestleMania 17, just in case you pick WrestleMania 17. Everybody says it. You can pick it if you want, but
mine is not that. Man, it's so hard to say because I remember individual matches more than whole events.
Even if you want to pick your favourite match or a couple of your favourite matches, you can do that as well.
One that jumps to mind is CM Punk and Cena at Money in the Bank. Undertaker and Michaels 1 and 2. Actually, WrestleMania 30. That's got to be my favourite one. Top to bottom, all good matches. Memorable moments. That's the one that that's the show that I can think of the most moments from that I remember. So that's what I'm going with.
Is that the Daniel Bryan one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
See, I'm not a big fan of Daniel Bryan. Everybody hates me for saying it, but I get.
We're gonna have a problem.
I get that his in-ring work's good. Now, like that way, you can appreciate somebody for the in-ring work they do as well. Like a lot of people, I get William Regal is a good worker, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will never sit down and watch a William Regal match without having to like watch it. If that makes sense. Like I would, and I'm the same with Daniel Bryan. Now I feel like I'm missing something, so I'm trying to like get a good couple of 5 matches together and go watch them. But I remember him back before he was in WWE. I did enjoy his stuff then, but then when he went, I don't know. I just felt like it just wasn't the same. I think it's because he changed his name round. Like he's changed it. My brain was just like, I'm not accepting this. No, that's not right. But I need to watch more of his stuff. So final question, man. The one that everybody either hums and haws it or they know the answer straight away. I'll tell you my answer after I ask it.
Okay.
And so if you could replace somebody or add yourself to any match in history, what would it be? For me, I would replace Owen Hart against Bret Hart, Blue Steel Cage, SummerSlam 94, but only if I was as good as Owen Hart because I would probably break my neck again doing that.
It's so difficult.
I just ask it because I like watching people go, I don't know.
See, the immediate match that came to mind was Undertaker and Michaels at WrestleMania 25, but I wouldn't know who I'd want to replace because they're both as good as each other.
You could add yourself as a referee as well. You can add yourself in that aspect to that one. Or would you just never touch it, let the ref stay there too, so he can enjoy his moment?
Oh, man, that's so difficult. Actually, no, there's a perfect answer for this. I would replace myself in the Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker match and replace Brock. Because then I'm being remembered for the rest of history.
So many people have said that one recently as well. And I've never thought about it. The closest one that I thought about that was the No Way Out 06 Kurt Angle Taker match, because that's like my second favourite match. But I would be the referee in that or something, because how could you pick between those two guys?
Yeah.
But like you said, you'll be remembered for history and you'll get those loyalty checks every single year. Like
every time they show the streak being broken.
just the thumbs up. That was me that done that. I get paid for this, man. But thanks for coming on the show. It's been cool chatting to you.
It's been a pleasure.
Where would you like? Obviously, we've got your links in the description. where would you like people to go check you out first? What would you like? Would you recommend a match if it's on YouTube, or would you want them to go to your Twitter? Where would you recommend people go?
So head over to my Twitter. There's promos. I've got some links to some matches as well. Head on to the Reckless Intent YouTube channel. There's plenty of my matches on there as well. Tag team matches, singles matches, whatever you fancy. So go and have a look through if you fancy it.
Man, I definitely recommend people go check you out. I've been in a bit of a binge on your stuff for the past couple of days. It's been really fun. And I can't wait to actually see everybody I've had in this. I'm going to be busy for the first 6 months of when everything's back to normal. I'll just have shows every single weekend. But so what I'll do is I'll end the podcast there. I'll tell you after information. And thanks for being on.
Cool, no problem at all.